College campuses, once seen as havens of learning and intellectual exploration, nationwide are erupting with protests, a visible sign of the deep divisions and passionate beliefs that are gripping the nation. These demonstrations center over the Israel-Gaza conflict, a complex and emotionally charged issue that has ignited passions and sparked intense debate among students. Students are transforming, with increasing fervor, their universities into battlegrounds, not of physical violence, but of ideological struggle, where opinions clash and convictions are tested. Campuses are now the arena for debate and activism, a place where students are finding their voice and demanding to be heard on issues of global importance. The conflict, a source of immense human suffering, long a source of division both within the international community and on college campuses, now feels urgent and personal, resonating deeply with a generation that has grown up in a world of interconnectedness and instant information. This is especially true for a new generation, one that is acutely aware of global events and feels a strong sense of responsibility to address injustice wherever it exists. Social media amplifies with unprecedented speed and reach every image and story, bringing the realities of the conflict directly to their fingertips, fueling engagement and outrage, and galvanizing students to take action and demand change. Walkouts, a powerful symbol of solidarity and protest, sit-ins, acts of civil disobedience aimed at disrupting the status quo, and encampments, physical manifestations of protest that occupy campus spaces, have become common sights, transforming the landscape of higher education and challenging the traditional norms of campus life. These actions are disrupting daily campus life, forcing universities to grapple with the complexities of balancing academic freedom with the need for order and safety. Students demand, with increasing urgency, their institutions take a stand, to publicly condemn injustice and to align themselves with what they believe is the right side of history. They are seeing the issue as a matter, not just of politics or international relations, but of justice and survival, a fundamental question of human rights and dignity that demands immediate action. The digital age brings the conflict closer, shrinking the distance between the classroom and the crisis, making distant events feel immediate, and fostering a sense of shared responsibility for the suffering of others. This activism is part of a long tradition, a lineage of student movements that have shaped the course of history. Campuses have always been, and continue to be, hotbeds for social and political movements, incubators of change where young people challenge the status quo and fight for a better world. Yet the Israel-Gaza conflict brings unique challenges, adding layers of complexity to an already fraught situation, rooted in complex histories and identities, and intertwined with deeply held religious and cultural beliefs. Dialogue is difficult. Finding common ground seems almost impossible. Emotions run high on all sides, making constructive conversation a rare and precious commodity. Both pro-Israel students, who feel a deep connection to the Jewish state and its right to exist, and pro-Palestinian students, who advocate for the rights and self-determination of the Palestinian people, feel a deep, personal stake in the outcome, seeing the conflict as a reflection of their own identities and values. University leaders are caught between, often feeling immense pressure from all sides, protecting free speech, a cornerstone of academic freedom and open inquiry, and ensuring campus safety, a fundamental responsibility to protect the well-being of all students and faculty. The atmosphere is charged, thick with tension and anxiety, with strong emotions and competing narratives, making it difficult to find common ground or to bridge the divides. Administrators struggle, often facing criticism no matter what decisions they make, to balance open debate, allowing for the free exchange of ideas, with the need for inclusivity, creating a welcoming and supportive environment for all members of the campus community. The stakes feel higher than ever, as students see this conflict as a defining moment, with students seeing themselves not just as observers, but as part of a global movement, a collective effort to address injustice and promote peace. The protests are reshaping campus culture, leaving a lasting impact on the social and political landscape of higher education, forcing difficult conversations, and challenging long-held assumptions. As events unfold, with each new development adding another layer of complexity, the complexity of the task facing universities only grows, demanding innovative solutions and a commitment to dialogue and understanding. The legacy of student activism continues, inspiring future generations to stand up for their beliefs, but the path forward is anything but clear, requiring courage, empathy, and a willingness to engage in difficult conversations. Many students supporting Israel find themselves deeply invested in the nation's story and its future. Their support isn't always just political. It often stems from a complex web of personal, historical, and cultural connections. Understanding these motivations is key to grasping the nuances of campus debates surrounding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Feel a deep historical and personal connection to the land. This connection is often nurtured from a young age, with stories of resilience and heritage passed down through generations. For Jewish students, Israel often represents safety and a homeland, a place where they feel a sense of belonging and shared identity. It's a refuge, a symbol of self-determination, and a vital part of their cultural and religious heritage. After centuries of persecution, especially in light of the Holocaust serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of the Jewish people and the importance of having a secure homeland. This historical trauma deeply influences their perspective on the need for a strong and protected Israel. This sense of survival and security shapes their perspective on the conflict, leading them to view threats against Israel as existential threats to the Jewish people as a whole. They see supporting Israel as a moral imperative, a way to ensure that such atrocities never happen again. News of attacks or threats against Israel, whether from state or non-state actors, reinforces their fears and commitment to stand in solidarity with Israel. These events trigger a deep sense of vulnerability and a renewed determination to advocate for Israel's security. Supporting Israel for them means defending its right to exist and protect its people, ensuring its survival in a region often perceived as hostile. It's about safeguarding a haven for Jews and upholding the principles of self-determination. Personal ties, family, friends, or visits make the conflict feel immediate and real, transforming it from an abstract political issue into a tangible human experience. These connections foster empathy and a strong desire to protect those they care about. Their advocacy is emotional, tied to identity and community, reflecting a deep-seated sense of responsibility and belonging. It's not just about politics, it's about protecting their heritage and standing up for their people. Rising anti-Semitism, both globally and on campus, heightens their concerns and fuels their determination to defend Israel. They see a direct link between anti-Israel sentiment and anti-Semitism, fearing that criticism of Israel can often mask deeper prejudices. They report that criticism of Israel sometimes crosses into anti-Semitic rhetoric, making them feel unsafe and marginalized on campus. This can manifest in various forms, from microaggressions to outright hate speech, creating a hostile environment for Jewish students. These students call for clear distinctions between political debate and hate speech, emphasizing the importance of respectful dialogue and condemning any form of discrimination or harassment. They believe that open discussion is essential, but it must be conducted in a way that doesn't target or marginalize Jewish students. Ensuring a campus free from anti-Semitism is as important to them as supporting Israel itself, recognizing that a safe and inclusive environment is crucial for Jewish students to thrive. They advocate for policies and initiatives that combat anti-Semitism and promote understanding and respect for all students. They want their connection to Israel recognized as part of their identity, not just a political stance, acknowledging the multifaceted nature of their Jewish identity and the significance of Israel within that context. They seek understanding and acceptance of their connection to Israel as a legitimate expression of their heritage and culture. For these students, the conflict is both personal and existential, deeply intertwined with their sense of self, their history, and their future. It's a complex and emotional issue that demands sensitivity, understanding, and a commitment to fostering respectful dialogue on campus. Pro-Palestinian students, often found on university campuses and in activist circles, focus intently on humanitarian concerns. Their advocacy stems from a deep-seated belief in the fundamental rights and dignity of all people, regardless of nationality or background. They are driven by a desire to alleviate suffering and promote justice for the Palestinian people. They are highlighting the ongoing hardships and challenges faced by Palestinians in Gaza, who endure frequent conflict and a blockade that restricts the flow of essential goods, and in the West Bank, where they experience the daily realities of occupation, including checkpoints, settlement expansion, and limited autonomy. Reports of restricted movement within the West Bank, where Palestinians often face significant obstacles in traveling to work, school, or even visiting family, are a major concern. These restrictions impact every aspect of daily life. Limited access to essential resources such as clean water, reliable electricity, and adequate medical care further exacerbates the humanitarian situation. These shortages create immense challenges for families and communities. And the pervasive civilian suffering, including the loss of homes, livelihoods, and loved ones, is what ultimately drives their activism and compels them to speak out against what they perceive as injustice. They see the situation in Palestine as a profound humanitarian crisis, demanding immediate and sustained attention from the international community. They believe that the world has a moral obligation to address the suffering of the Palestinian people. They are demanding urgent attention from policymakers, international organizations, and the general public, urging them to take concrete steps to alleviate the crisis and work towards a just and lasting resolution. The narrative of ongoing occupation and displacement, with many Palestinians having been forced from their homes and land over the decades, is central to their stance and informs their understanding of the conflict. This historical context of displacement and dispossession is fundamental to their perspective and shapes their calls for justice and self-determination. Many learn about the conflict through the lens of lost land, tracing the historical changes in territorial control and the impact on the Palestinian population. They highlight the plight of Palestinian refugees and the denial of their rights since 1948, emphasizing the ongoing consequences of the Nakba, or catastrophe, which led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Terms like occupation and apartheid are frequently used to describe Israeli policies in the West Bank and Gaza, reflecting a belief that these policies create a system of discrimination and oppression. These terms are employed to draw attention to what they see as systemic inequalities and human rights violations perpetrated against the Palestinian people. Their activism is deeply fueled by empathy for the Palestinian people, particularly those who have suffered loss, displacement, and hardship as a result of the conflict. And it is also driven by a strong sense of global solidarity with other marginalized and oppressed communities around the world, recognizing the interconnectedness of struggles for justice. They connect the Palestinian cause to broader struggles, viewing it as part of a larger global movement for human rights and social justice. They see the fight for Palestinian rights as intrinsically linked to broader struggles for justice, equality, and self-determination around the world, advocating for a world where all people are treated with dignity and respect. Concerns about the rise of Islamophobia and anti-Muslim sentiment in many parts of the world also play a significant role in motivating their activism. They are further motivated by the experience of anti-Palestinian sentiment and discrimination, which they believe is often overlooked or ignored in mainstream discourse. They feel that Palestinian voices are too often marginalized in discussions about the conflict, leading to a skewed and incomplete understanding of the situation. They express concern that Palestinian perspectives are often silenced or suppressed on university campuses and in other public forums. They argue that criticism of Israeli policies is sometimes unfairly and inaccurately labeled as support for terrorism, creating a chilling effect on free speech and open debate. This unfair labeling, they contend, often leads to harmful stereotyping and prejudice against Palestinians and those who support their cause. Students of Arab or Muslim descent in particular may feel especially targeted by these stereotypes and accusations, leading to a sense of vulnerability and marginalization. This can create a climate of fear and self-censorship, making it difficult for them to express their views and advocate for Palestinian rights without fear of reprisal. Therefore, they fight for the fundamental right to share Palestinian stories and perspectives, ensuring that their voices are heard and their experiences are acknowledged. They advocate for free speech and accurate representation of the Palestinian narrative, striving to create a more informed and nuanced understanding of the conflict on university campuses and beyond. Pro-Israel students often feel misunderstood and unfairly labeled on campus. They struggle to express nuanced support for Israel without being accused of endorsing every government policy. The lack of nuance in campus debates can be alienating and stifling. Labels like colonizer or apartheid supporter shut down dialogue and create hostility. Many emphasize their desire for peace and security for both Israelis and Palestinians. Rising anti-Semitism, from graffiti to harassment, increases their sense of vulnerability. Fear of backlash or being doxxed leads some to self-censor or withdraw from debate. They look to university administrations for protection and clear condemnation of anti-Semitism. The chilling effect on speech is a serious concern, impacting their campus experience. They want a climate where they can engage critically and safely. Pro-Palestinian students often feel their advocacy is misrepresented or dismissed. Their calls for human rights are sometimes portrayed as anti-Semitic or supportive of violence, which they strongly reject. They stress that criticizing Israeli policies is not the same as hating Jewish people. Being labeled anti-Semitic for their stance creates fear and silences legitimate debate. They argue that conflating criticism of a nation-state with hatred of a people blocks real discussion. Many feel universities are silent or biased, failing to acknowledge Palestinian suffering. This perceived imbalance leads to feelings of marginalization and injustice. They struggle to have the scale of Palestinian suffering recognized in campus discourse. For students with personal ties to Palestine, this lack of acknowledgement is especially painful. The emotional toll of fighting for recognition and justice is significant. Protests have created a tense, polarized atmosphere on many campuses. Students feel pressure to choose sides, and everyday interactions can quickly become heated. Routines are disrupted, classes moved, access restricted, and campus life altered. For activists, the commitment is intense and often impacts their studies and well-being. Pro-Palestinian students demand divestment from companies linked to Israeli policies and academic boycotts. They seek protection for pro-Palestinian speech and want universities to align with human rights principles. Their activism is driven by solidarity and a belief in collective action for justice. Pro-Israel students, meanwhile, call for stronger action against anti-Semitism and clearer definitions of hate speech. They want safety, fair representation, and recognition of their connection to Israel. Both groups see their demands as rooted in identity, justice, and the need for a respectful campus environment. The motivations are deeply personal, shaped by history and current events. Each side wants their narratives acknowledged and their safety ensured. The debate is about more than policy. It's about belonging and recognition. Universities are under pressure to respond to both sets of demands. Universities are responding with a mix of dialogue and enforcement. Some prioritize engagement while others enforce policies, sometimes leading to disciplinary action. The challenge is balancing protest rights with campus safety and order. The Israel-Gaza debate is testing the limits of free speech on campus. What one group sees as political expression, another may view as hate speech. Self-censorship is rising as students and faculty fear backlash or harassment. The quality of academic discourse suffers when people are afraid to speak. Defining legitimate criticism versus hate speech is a central, unresolved issue. Pro-Palestinian activists argue for the right to critique Israeli policies without being labeled anti-Semitic. Pro-Israel groups point to rhetoric that crosses into anti-Semitism or calls for Israel's destruction. Universities struggle to draw fair, consistent lines. Some attempt moderated discussions, but polarization makes progress difficult. Creating spaces for respectful dialogue is vital for intellectual growth. The current unrest will shape university policies for years to come. Investment decisions, free speech rules, and protest guidelines are all under review. These debates may influence broader societal views on the Israel-Palestine conflict. Today's student activists are tomorrow's leaders, carrying these experiences forward. The risk of increased polarization is real if dialogue fails, yet the intensity could also drive deeper engagement and new understanding. Universities must balance academic freedom, safety, and learning amid ongoing conflict. How they respond will shape their futures and their role in society. The challenge is ongoing with no easy solutions in sight. The path forward remains uncertain, but the conversation is far from over.